Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2024 commencement ceremony from the University of Vermont College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. You may be seated. For your safety, please take a moment to locate the emergency exits for the arena. We ask that you please keep the aisles clear of people and all objects. In the event of a fire alarm, please remain seating until an announcement providing you with further instructions has been made. If an evacuation of the arena is required, ushers and event staff will be able to direct you to the safe exit. Should an evacuation become necessary, please remain quiet, calm, and follow directions of the ushers and the event staff, and proceed in an orderly manner to the safest and nearest exit. Thank you. My name is Dr. Todd J. Pritchard, and I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Nutrition and Food Sciences. As the college marshal at this ceremony, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this special moment in your lives, but especially the lives of the class of 2024. I now have the distinct honor of introducing Dean Dr. Leslie Parisi, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences.
Hello, class of 2024. I think you all won that contest this morning. I'm so pleased to be here with all of you today and with your family and friends, both here and online. As I look out at all these caps and gowns, I'm so proud of each and every one of you. When I think of all you've achieved in what has been an especially challenging college experience, you've adapted, persevered, and overcome time and again, and you should be incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. Needless to say, it's been a particularly tumultuous few years, marked by a global pandemic, deepening political and economic divides, and growing pressures around our changing climate. It's been a time for reflection, growth, and action. And as we've emerged from the pandemic and look ahead, it's what we do next that matters most. Since I first arrived at UVM almost 4 years ago, I've been inspired by your enthusiasm and passion. All of you who are committed to building a more sustainable, kind, and inclusive world. You graduate today with the knowledge, skills, and values to carry that commitment forward in your lives and careers. Now especially, the world needs graduates like you, young, resilient leaders who have a shared commitment to building a better world. Think back on your first day at UVM. You may have been excited, eager, afraid, or anxious, the many mixed emotions of change. And as you leave your undergraduate days at UVM behind and begin your next chapter, you may experience those same mixed emotions. Your next steps are likely to be full of transition and change. It's just part of life. But it's in those moments that you'll have the best opportunity to discover, learn, and grow. Just think of all the change and growth you've experienced during your time in CALS. You've been challenged and inspired. You've juggled jobs, extracurriculars, classes, internships, research, and so much more. I'd like to take a moment to recognize just how much you've achieved. So for all of you who participated in undergraduate research with a faculty member, please stand and stay standing. Please stand and stay standing if you participated in an internship. A service learning course. Or held a job. Stand if you were a member of a student club, an athletics team, or played in intramural sport. Okay, you may all sit down. So you've done this and so much more. Congratulations. It's now my pleasure to introduce our ceremony speaker, a faculty member whom many of you know, but what you may not know is that this is the last time he will be announcing names as our students cross the stage to receive their diploma. Our ceremony speaker this year is Don Stratton. Don has served UVM and CALS as a senior lecturer in plant biology and co-director of the Integrated Biological Science program. He received his PhD in ecology and evolution from SUNY Stony Brook, did postdoctoral research at Duke University, and was an assistant professor at Princeton before moving to UVM in 1998. He has enjoyed teaching a variety of subjects, from genetics to ecology, and has had well over 1,000 students pass through his introductory biology classes. Don lives in Bristol and has 2 grown daughters. When he's not doing biology, you can usually find him doing some kind of musical activity. He plays fiddle with the band Red Dog Riley and leads contra and square dances all across Vermont. Please join me in welcoming one of our most beloved and appreciated faculty members, Don Stratton.
Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do a square dance here. Congratulations to the class of 2024. As we've just seen, you've done a lot while you've been here and come a long way. Thinking back on those first days, most of you arrived at college during the height of the pandemic. UVM was in person that year, but just barely. You made the transition to college at a time when most classes were online and many of the normal activities were on hold. We had to get tested every week. You made new friends while wearing a mask and social distancing. I remember teaching some of you in my accelerated biology class that first semester. We were only 35 people in a 300-person lecture hall. We were all masked. We were sitting 5 seats apart in every direction, and it seemed somehow even more isolated than talking to my other classes on video, even when all of you kept your cameras off and I just stared at a screen full of initials. But we made it. The fact that you are here today is a testament to your perseverance during those challenging times. That really is an accomplishment. Now is another time of transition, and hopefully this one will be a bit easier. It's also a time of change for me as I retire from UVM and start the next chapter of my life. Transitions are good times to reflect on the lessons we've learned so far, and I've spent a lot of time recently reflecting on my path and trying to imagine what is next. Here are some of the lessons I've been thinking about, and maybe some of them will resonate with you. Be open to new possibilities because we never know what lies ahead. When I entered college, I was sure I was going to be a philosophy major. I wanted to focus on the big questions like the meaning of life. And I was a philosophy major for a while. But then as a sophomore, I took a biology class and decided I liked being outdoors. I could study life without worrying so much about the meaning, or at least a different kind of meaning. Later, when I started at UVM, I was 100% focused on research, and I saw that as my career path. It was great to have the freedom and the time to devote to experiments and data, but once again, life had other plans. I filled in teaching for a semester, and it reminded me just how much I enjoyed being in the classroom and getting to interact with students. Although I still like data and numbers, being in the classroom felt like I was being more useful. So I switched roles, and I never looked back. It's also not a race. Sometimes it feels like we need to rush to get to the next milestone, to get a real job, to settle down. But delays can sometimes be useful. When I was in your place, just graduating from college, I knew I liked biology, but I didn't really have concrete plans. I applied to a bunch of graduate schools and didn't get into a single one. So I had to move on to plan B. I got a job, I worked for a year, but that year gave me time for my ideas and my skills to coalesce. I applied again the next year and got in everywhere with full scholarships, and here I am. So if the pieces haven't yet fallen in place for you, take heart. Sometimes it just takes a while for the opportunities to line up. And it's always mostly about the people. Just the other day, I was sorting through my photos folder, trying to purge the hundreds or thousands of snapshots. The scenery was easy to discard, but I kept the ones with people. We've met a lot of people and made a lot of strong ties here, so hold on to those people. Our time at UVM has been an amazing gift. For me, like many of you, next fall will be the first time in a long time that I don't return to school. I've been in the classroom pretty much nonstop since I was 5 years old in kindergarten. For me, that's 60 years, yikes. One of the joys of being a student, or a teacher for that matter, is that our main job is to wake up every morning and learn something new. I hope we can all hang on to that as we move into this next phase. For me, maybe that will be learning a fiddle tune or practicing the banjo, but I don't ever plan to stop learning something new every day. So as we start this new adventure, I'm a little excited, a little apprehensive. I don't know what lies ahead. So far, my path has been full of experiences I wouldn't have predicted from the beginning, and yours likely will too. But if nothing else, the pandemic has given us all college degrees in resilience. Each of us will find more turns on the path ahead, open up new vistas to explore. I look forward to finding out what we will all discover. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. Could you step back up here for a moment, Dawn? Thank you, Dr. Stratton, for lending your expertise, guidance, mentoring, and support to our students throughout the last 26 years. You, along with all our graduates here today, will always be a member of the CALS family. At this time, I'd like to ask Dean Parisi to say a few words.
Is this new?
So Don, to thank you for your many years of service, we've commissioned a special gift for you made by none other than our own woodworking artisan, Dr. Todd Pritchard.
Am I supposed to open this out?
Yeah, sure.
Oh. Thank you, Todd.
Sure.
At this time, I'd like to ask Dean Parisi to step forward for the presentation of emeriti citations.
Dr. Jane Kolodinsky. Dr. Jane Kolodinsky, you arrived at UVM in 1987 with a PhD in consumer economics from Cornell University. You are a trailblazer in transdisciplinary curriculum development and research. You served as chair of the Community Development and Applied Economics Department for over 20 years, helping the department grow to its current level of success. You also served as the director of the Center for Rural Studies and Cal's Associate Dean of Research. You chaired the Senate Academic Affairs and Committee on the Status of Women. Your vast Cal service includes chairing the Curricular and Academic Affairs Committees and developing the Food Systems Bachelor of Science degree. You are a UVM University Scholar, Gunn Fellow, and Fellow of the American Council on Consumer Interests. You published 173 journal articles spanning the fields of food systems and community development, were awarded 100 grants bringing in over $8 million to UVM, advised 46 graduate students, were awarded 2 International Fulbright Awards to work in Germany and Canada, and presented your research on 5 continents. You served as president of the American Council on Consumer Interests and chaired 5 sections of the Agricultural and Applied Economics Association. Best wishes for the future, and thank you for your contributions to UVM. Dr. Deborah Nair. As Distinguished Professor in Plant and Soil Science at the University of Vermont, your expertise in soil ecology and agroecology is renowned. With a PhD in plant pathology from the University of California, Davis, your 34-year career has been marked by international recognition as a champion for crucial soil health practices addressing environmental issues. Joining UVM in 2004, you served as chair of the Plant and Soil Science Department until 2018, shaping countless careers and earning the H.W. Vogelman Award for Excellence in Research and Scholarship in 2009. Your extensive research and over 125 peer-reviewed publications have significantly impacted your field. You've been honored with numerous awards, and the Ecological Society of America honored you with the Deborah A. Nair Career Award in 2015. UVM and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences extends a heartfelt thanks for your dedication and wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations. Dr. Bruce Parker, who I don't think made it here, but after finishing a bachelor's degree at University of Maine and military service in the Marine Corps, you received a PhD from Cornell University. In 1965, you took a faculty position at UVM, where you have worked for 59 years. You led the entomology research laboratory, focused on solving real-world grower pest problems, and explored innovations to combat climate change, including a vertical system combining agriculture with solar power. You maintained an active international program working in Southeast, Central, and West Asia, South and Central America, and East Africa to help improve agriculture globally. You mentored numerous postdocs and graduate and undergraduate students, holding them to high academic standards. Many have gone on to accomplish careers in and outside of Vermont. We are grateful for your service to UVM and your tireless effort to help growers earn a living and help students succeed. Professor Jane Petrillo, with a BFA from Boston University and an MFA from Virginia Commonwealth University, you joined the University of Vermont faculty in 1990, where you have served as professor for 34 years. Your creative works have earned acclaim regionally, nationally, and internationally. Your innovative design work has been showcased in dozens of publications, and you have presented at leading conferences in visual communication and design. As a community-engaged scholar, you have garnered support from the McDonald Foundation, Vermont Council on the Arts, and the American Institute of Architecture. In the Department of Community Development and Applied Economics, You have consistently demonstrated exceptional talent, creativity, and leadership. Your passion for education and support for aspiring designers has left an indelible mark on our department. Your mentorship, service, and curriculum development have transformed public communication and applied design education at the University of Vermont.
UVM is truly losing a wealth of knowledge with these four individuals. On behalf of the students, staff, faculty, and the entire UVM community, I would like to invite Dean Parisi to come forward for the presentation of a posthumous degree in memory of an exceptional member of our CALS family to her family.
Now, on behalf of our CALS family and the University of Vermont, we come together to share a moment to remember and honor the short but beautiful life of Maddie Salzberg. We lost Maddie tragically and unexpectedly on the Tuckerman Ravine in New Hampshire on March 9th while skiing and embracing the beauty of the outdoors, doing what she loved most. Today, we celebrate her contributions to our community, her unwavering determination and resilience, and her passion and commitment to making the world a better place. Maddie was a junior majoring in agroecology and landscape design. She was drawn to Vermont for its natural beauty. After working on an organic farm, she found UVM and CALS to be a perfect fit to study food and agriculture. She became a leader in the communities she joined and a mentor to those whom she led. Maddie joined the UVM Army ROTC program after earning a scholarship training to serve her country as a commissioned officer while earning her degree. Maddie joined the Green Mountain Battalion and through hard work earned a spot on the Ranger Challenge team. She was a graduate of the Army Mountain Warfare School's Basic Military Mountaineering course and the Army Air Assault course. She was a top athlete. She was resilient. Maddie found strength and love in her Christian faith and was a deeply loved and respected member of the Reformed University Fellowship community. She will always be remembered for her impeccable character and enormous heart. Her Nan mentioned that Maddie loved wildflowers, perhaps for their natural beauty or their strength and resilience, so many qualities that describe Maddie. She brought beauty and love to so many of us in CALS and made a deep impact on her community. Please join me in acknowledging and celebrating Maddie's life as I invite the family to the stage to accept the diploma awarded to Maddie Christine Salzberg.
We now turn our attention to the central reason we're here today, our class of 2024 graduates. They're about to be presented their diplomas. The presentation of diplomas will be alphabetical by department, starting with animal and veterinary sciences. For the awarding of diplomas, students will come forth alphabetically within their department and will receive recognition from the chair of their department the program director, or department representative, as well as our dean. Graduates, as you come forward to receive your diploma, please use caution when entering and exiting the stage. Dr. Jim Vigoro, professor and chair of the Department of Animal and Veterinary Sciences, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in animal sciences.
Ready? Caitlin Ryan Arsenault. Riley Shea Ballard. Jennifer Rose Bardell. Emily G. Benson. Olivia Ann Biasetti. Lucy J. Braymiller. Molly Lynn Broder. Abigail Marie Brown. Katerina Marie Brummer. Kaylee Violet Bushweller. Comito? Mackenzie Comito. Cuviello. Abigail Cuviello. Willow Sky DeVoe Toluto. Oh, Isabella Luda Didio, cum laude. Charlotte A. Dinitz, summa cum laude. Genevieve Ann Dishman. Fiona Madison Duckworth. Nicole M. Fernandez Ohms. Rachel C. Forsman, magna cum laude. Garamiski. Alyssa Haley Goremski. Megan Jarvis. Sabrina C. Gonzalez. Lauren E. Green. Sabrina Emily Haas. Carly Ray Hambley. Scarlett King Hop. Carly E. Helm. Anna Alexandra Yortsberg. Erica Kimberly Hoover. Madison Eileen Iarusi. Molly Grace Jenkins. Emily Jensen Vargas. Michaela Juniman. Emma Elizabeth Vogel Katz. Caitlin Marie Keeler. Danielle Madeline Kogan. Sydney R. Laria. Gabrielle Renee Lozier. Michelle A. Lavoie. Zoe Adele Lefebvre. It's the same Lefebvre. Clara E. Lefebvre. Olivia Rose Leong. Llanos. Christopher Llanos. Lindsay E. Lundgren. Sydney Madera. Catherine Margarita Malamed Henning. Sangavi B. Muthuswamy. Carissa Nesbitt. Ryan Ng. Lauren Nicole O'Brien. Luke T. O'Neill. Sabrina Marie Ost, cum laude. Willette. Olivia Maria Willette. Helen Ustinov. Maggie Payne. Nora H. Payne. Pikachik. Hannah Rose Penkasik. Kendra Lauren Potenziano. Rachel Potter. Megan Quaid. Isabella L. Richardson. Carolyn M. Rickerman. Matthew Robbins. Kyle Rousseau. Raya. Cassidy D. Raya. Rebecca J. Sheff. Emily Brooke Swenson. Angelina Palma Tario. Grace Ann Uche. Savannah Julisa Nova Berdina Vitale. Emma Walters. Wednesday Marie Toe Wendling. Catherine Ives Ziak.
Dr. Alan Chant, Professor of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics and the College of Medicine, and the CAL's Director of the Biochemistry Program, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in biochemistry.
Elizabeth Diana Cook. Margaret Conway Haley. Kaziski? Michael John Kazicki.
Dr. Jean Harris, Professor and Chair of the Department of Plant Biology, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in biological science.
We good? Christina Loretta Anastasia. Josie Renee Beauregard. Hannah Louise Blackwell, magna cum laude. Cassandra Lee Choman. Ratsamin Danaswasti. Alexandra Rose Dunstan. McKaylee Kathleen Grohall. Grace Harutian. Anna Isabel Hinkle. Irian. Mahala Irian Nodine. Olivia Lynn Noyes. Savannah Maya Parker. Pepe? Ryan Thomas Pepe. Ari Cole Sapers Sidney. Lauren Mary Serafino. Congratulations. Sophia Teresa Sinibaldi, summa cum laude. Alice Martha Sperber.
Thomas DeSisto, Senior Lecturer and Assistant Chair of the Department of Community Development and Applied Economics, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in community entrepreneurship, community-centered design, community and international development, and public communication.
Marcus A. Aloisi. Giovanna Gilda Anello. Jennifer Armon. Jordan Barber, cum laude. Kendon L. Bodwin Clark. Alexander Joseph Beauregard. Media Laurel Bellabono. Alani Jean Besson. Nicole K. Beadall. Ari Ellis Binns. Shayla Blair. Ella Rose Boardman Wolf. Cecilia Boyson. Josie Brennan. Jill Elena Brody. Olivia M. Beezer. Carly Rose Berger. Elizabeth Mary Cerullo. Patrick Daniel Clark. Tyler Clayton. Aidan E. Connolly. Maximilian J. Conrad. Spencer Cruz Brown. Rachel Cunningham. You good? Okay. Yep. Elizabeth C. Dawkins. Matthew Diebel, cum laude. Right. Lillian Marie Farah. Emerson Fennelly. Ella Claire Ferguson. Chantel Finley. Paige Fisher, cum laude. Harley Marin Gastman. Gilly. Liam Duncan Gilly. Gutkind. Noah David Gutkind. Samuel Green. Douglas Hand. Good. McCall Albert Heimert. Julia Elizabeth Hilal. Daniel T. Hibbs, magna cum laude. Shannon Laura Margaret Hickey. Andrew Hoblitzel. Jonas Hunter. Yep. Rory Hines. Henry Irwin. Janarone. Jackson Thomas Janarone. Zachary Dylan Kaplan. Evan Kaplow Healy. Presenting our next diploma is Dr. Kelly Clark Keefe, Professor and Associate Dean in the College of Education and Social Services, and mom to our next CALS graduate, Cassidy Clark Keefe. How do you follow that? John William Keyes. Margot R. Klein. Hannah Kuchkovich. Colby Alexander Kudla. Chloe Ann Kunzelman. Emma Nicole Lanciani. Mary Lenahan, cum laude. Alexa Elizabeth Lepold. Catherine Lipari. Maeve Rebecca Looney. Sabine Maria Love. Avina Sky Mansky. Lily Grace Marchessault. Molly Kate McDermott. Summer McGuire. Eamon Michael McLean. Mackenzie J. Moore. Grace Remington Morgan. Erin Elizabeth Murphy. Maxwell Woodrow Murray. Joshua Nordheim. Michaela R. O'Farrell, magna cum laude. Rebecca D. Olshan. Sylvan William Padberg. Riley Pengu. Ava Jolie Perriman. Molly Crawford Pogue. Lucy Faye Powell. Zane Reservitz. Jude Cormier Roberts. Louisa Christine Ressler. Anna Frances Svetlana Roland. Samantha W. Rolls. Jane Patricia Sanders. Edgar Vargas. Leah Delaney Veprek. Nicoletta Maria Warner. Lauren Isabel West. Emily Whalen. Christopher Williamson. I need that card. Cardell Wilson. Ella Yench.
Dr. Jean Harris, Professor and Chair of the Department of Plant Biology, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in environmental sciences.
Jade Ann Glinsky. Angelica Marie Bustamante Golbin. Jonah R. Harriton. Mailer. Elizabeth K. Mailer. Emily Grace Roth. Mackenzie Carol Vask. Terry. Theron D. Williams, magna cum laude.
Dr. Terry Bradshaw, Chair of the Department of Plant and Soil Science, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in environmental studies.
Phoebe J. Briney, magna cum laude. Carter H. Coatsworth. Nicole Helena Cohen. Colette Cross, magna cum laude. Rachel Jenna Dossinger, cum laude. Family. Will Fama. Josephine Friedman, cum laude. Jack Henry Healy. Alexander David Joyce. Casey Elizabeth Kafori. Luke Edward Latorre. A. Eaton Lowell. Lindsay Mensch. Henry Carlin Neumann. Nola George Scott. Samantha Rose Chevelle. Shay Rose Squilante. Hope K. Swenlin. Jack Gillis Williams.
Dr. Terry Bradshaw, Chair of the Department of Plant and Soil Science, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in food systems.
Ray Bauman. Kiara Biggs. Nora Bodner. Lyndon Rose Bronze Russo. Felicia Connealy Nolan. Shay E. Crowley. Alina Marie DeCibas. Cassidy Rose DeSantis. George Cosimo Egan. Emma Kristen Fettridge, summa cum laude. Rowan Guerin. Hagopian. Hannah Grace Hagopian. Stuart Wheatley Hyman. Camille Flixler Jacoby. Paige Gretchen Kincaid. Nicole Jean LaPlante. Fernanda Jesus Lazo Silva. Marin Mahaffrey Dowd. Caitlin Maza. Samantha Murphy. Catherine Mary Orsini. Maya Iris Perot. Okay. Rabbit. Lauren Rose Ravid. Peyton Ford Rooney, cum laude. Sarah Baker Sinclair Southall. Gigi Simone Walsh, cum laude. Eli Zelanish.
Dr. Janet Murray, Vice Chair of the Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics in the College of Medicine, the Director of CAL's Honors College Program, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in microbiology and molecular genetics.
Elizabeth May Amelot. Maya R. Asher. Isabel Epernay Augustine. Congratulations. Brayley Bunton. Leah Nicole Cohen. Cameron Zuzu Cook. Ava Elizabeth Cote. Gabrielle M. Flory, cum laude. Olivia Katerina Garvin. Elliot J. Gear. Julius Raymond Herzog. Catherine Avery Hood, magna cum laude. Sarah Ali'i Jafrani. Morgan C. Kosick. Elena Lynn McWilliams. Madeline Whitney Mitchko. Thank you. It's a challenge.
The biggest challenge we face, yeah.
Ella Jane Morris. Yeah, we'll just hold on a second.
I got it. Got it, girl. Got it.
Carly Celeste Nelson, summa cum laude. Gracia Ein de Gia Pacheco. Gianna Bella Passetti. Ryan Pham. Alexa Mary Rivet, magna cum laude. Elizabeth Ellen Roadcap, summa cum laude. Haley Diana Chasen Rosenfeld. Zachary E. Rue. Valerie Annalise Van Arsdal. Connor Paul Junghans, cum laude. Oh. So, yeah, I know. Yep, I know.
Kelsey Rose, Assistant Clinical Professor of the Department of Nutrition and Food Sciences, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in nutrition and food sciences, as well as those majoring in dietetics, nutrition, and food sciences.
Mariam Omar Al-Chaderchi. Alessi. Sabrina Alessi. Madison Lee Bork. Olivia Brooker. Lydia P. Bunzel. Sophie Callahan. Elizabeth Ann Karstensen, cum laude. Iris Vida Carter. Hannah Elizabeth Krabis, cum laude. Anne Elizabeth Davis. Arthur A. DeBoer. Braden Kane Duraney. Cole M. DeWeese. Kathleen Elizabeth Fahey, magna cum laude. Fenstermaker. Lauren E. Fenstermaker. Sarah Brooke Garvin. Christina Green Hall. Sophia Louise James. Marina Jiao. Haley Dillon Joyal. Sydney M. Klugo, cum laude. Emma Grace Laudisi, cum laude. Danielle Catherine Lavero. Tobermory William Lowe. Aaliyah Sandra Luna. Kenzie G. Markello. Adam Patrick Matunas. Emily Mosey. Jennifer Lynn Nardello. Kaya? Kaya or Kaya? Oh, give up on that hat. Melina Kaya O'Brien. Anna Lynn Penny. Rebecca Seavey. Gina Siegel Sherman. Abigail Grace Simmons. Tanuta. Sophia Tanuta. Andrew Evan Vogt. Alexandra Elizabeth Wheeler. Asher S. Whittemore. Anna Reese Wilkinson. Eleanor Wilson. Yarsha? Bridget? Bridget Yarsho. Zadie Claire Young.
Dr. Jean Harris, Professor and Chair of the Department of Plant Biology, will present diplomas to graduates majoring in plant biology.
Marley Rose Ewick. Evan Patrick Goff. Emma Jeanette Haley. Catherine Patricia Kennedy. Ali E. Maciel. Abigail Kiyomi Kakamoto Munier. Kat Sarah O'Neill. Hey. Juliana Ruth Torelli.
Dr. Terry Bradshaw, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Plant and Soil Science, will present diplomas to those graduating in majors in agroecology and landscape design, ecological agriculture, and sustainable landscape horticulture.
Zaina Aviles. Kaylin Constance Day Barrett. Bo Atwood Brooks. Irma Chichuk. Nathan Linville Dole. Anna Geddes Flaherty. August Luis Hurtado. Andrea. Hallie Andrea Jackson. Georgia Blue Mulvey McDougall. Fisher C. Morrissey. Ethan Pizzini, cum laude. Shelley Phillipson. Colleen Catherine Schmid. Stefania Rosalia Surowick. Thanks. Henry Martin Angst Tucker. Luke Rowe Young.
Dr. Kelly Hamshaw, Senior Lecturer in the Department of Community Development and Applied Economics and Director of the Self-Design Program, will present diplomas to graduates of the Self-Design Program.
Mark Lewis Sizen.
Before we bring these proceedings to an end, Dean Leslie Parisi has a few closing remarks. Dean Parisi?
Graduates of the class of 2024, today you join more than 13,000 CALS alumni throughout Vermont and around the world who are passionate about their work and changing their communities for the better. We can't wait to see what you'll do next, and please keep in touch. We have been privileged to have all of you as members of our college, and remember that you will always be part of this great big CALS family and will always have a home with us at UVM and in the Green Mountain State. Congratulations.
Many of you are probably familiar with the movie The Wizard of Oz. And in The Wizard of Oz, there's a scene where the curtain is pulled back and we get to see what's really going on behind the scenes. So at this point, I would like to point over here to my left and ask those that were behind the scene to please come forward and be recognized for the hard work they put in today. They include Whitney Northrup, Kate Fitzsimmons, Tina Haskins, Gabby Trousseau, Jennifer Reardon, Ren Dillon, and Johanna Cummings. There's one more member who couldn't be here today by the name of Kaylee Boughton. Kaylee was doing a Spartan race and a mile and a half from the end, broke her leg, and in true Spartan fashion, finished the race. But she's not here today, so we would like to thank her, a very integral part of the Dean's office. I'd like to recognize two other individuals, actually three. Kate Finley Woodruff, thank you so much. For those of you who wondered, that was 10,000 steps she did going back and forth in heels. So you win the award today. And off to my right here, I would like to thank Dr. Elizabeth Lizzie Pope and Dr. Kelly Hamshaw for their work as marshals. You've noticed that I have emphasized doctor both times I've mentioned Kelly Hamshaw. Dr. Hamshaw received her doctorate yesterday. As we prepare to leave, I would like to ask that the aisles from the platform to the back of the room stay clear. We will be processing through the middle. I would also ask the guests to remain in place until members of the platform party and the graduates have exited. Graduates, you will follow the platform party out of the ceremony, into the lobby of the Patrick Gym, and out into the green. where you can take pictures with family and friends. Class of 2024, on behalf of the faculty and staff in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all of you. You have shared your lives with us these past few years. You've challenged us to be current with our subject matter, to identify new and engaging means of imparting knowledge, and maybe even be liked by Taylor Swift. And most importantly, you have afforded us all the opportunity to grow as individuals. Once again, thank you, Class of 2024. If you have not done so yet, you may turn your tassel to the left. This brings us to the end of these proceedings. I want to thank you all again for being here to honor our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences Class of 2024 graduates. Woo!